We all know how expensive testing can be, especially when you draw blood for, you're dealing with a condition and you have no idea what's going on. You may be being exhausted, you may be achy, can't sleep, swollen lymph nodes. It can be a myriad of things that kind of symptoms that you're dealing with, neurological, brain fog, depression, anxiety, whatever it may be. And you're going to a medical doctor and they're drawing normal labs and everything looks good and say you're perfectly healthy. And so then you start to go down the rabbit hole of trying to do other tests in order to be able to pinpoint and see, what can it be? Am I dealing with heavy metals? Am I dealing with chemicals? Am I dealing with Lyme? Is it some virus, Epstein-Barr? Food sensitivities, is it some emotion, nutritional deficiency, parasites, mold, and the list goes on, and the test can get pretty expensive. So, and even with those tests, all you're doing then is that you're testing either, things like blood, testing to see what's showing up in the blood, which can tell you a lot of things, or you're testing for parasites, you're testing then your poop, see what's coming out there. Just because it's coming out in your poop doesn't mean that or just because it doesn't come out in your poop doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in your intestinal tract. It's because they can still be hanging out in your intestinal tract and not show up in your poop. So it doesn't really eliminate the possibility. Or mold is another one that's really, really hard. That gets pretty expensive to do all those different tests. So things that we do here at the Karlfeldt Center is that we use a technique called autonomic response testing. And what that does is that you are then able to check through the nervous system to see how it's responding to stressors. And then you can use different homeopathic vials of these stressors to find out how the nervous system reacts to it. So you can, and the nervous system, why is that so important? Well, the nervous system pretty much communicates about everything that's going on in the body everywhere. So you can actually test and see what's going on with pretty much anything way before it shows up in the bloodstream. So for instance, let's say Lyme disease. Let's say you're thinking that you may have Lyme disease and you want to rule that out. So you can then do a blood test, which is notorious for having a lot of false negatives, and also you can spend a huge amount of money. The one that we like the best here is called Armand Labs. It's actually out of Germany. It's a blot test. But if you go through all the possibilities there, now we're talking like $1,000. So what we do then here is that we have then these different vials. These are Lyme and they're different co-infections, so Lyme disease. So you can then go through and test and check and see how the nervous system reacts to it. And if there's no reaction to it, then the likelihood is very minimal that Lyme is a big factor. So much cheaper, much faster, and it saves patients a huge amount of money. And so it's the same thing then for like mold. You have vials and for both outside, outdoor, and inside mold. So then you can then test and see, is the individual dealing with mold sensitivity? So here, doing this instead of doing all the mold testing, it's another $1,000 that you spend. So let's say you saved $1,000 here, another $1,000 here, Lyme, mold, and you can then find out that really, really quickly. Let's say you're dealing with, now we're dealing with 5G and 4G and other radiations, microwaves and things. And am I impacted by that? Maybe that is why I'm dealing with brain fog. So then I have actually vials for that as well. So we have the 5G, got 3G right there, 4G right here, cell phone, Bluetooth radiation, fluorescent light. And these kind of things, and even sea-level solar radio transmission, smart meters, power pole transformers. So all these things you can then test and see how's the nervous system reacting to it. Because if the nervous system's not really reacting to it, you probably, the likelihood that is an issue is not very big. So, save a huge amount of money. In fact, a lot of these things you can't really test any other way. So this is a fantastic tool. Or parasites, like I said, stool tests are great, but they don't show everything. So here we have both the protozoa, which are the tiny parasites, and then we have worms, which are the bigger parasites. So is that what is creating confusion in your nervous system, or is that why you're dealing with digestive upset or being exhausted or not able to gain or lose weight? Huge. Or how about nutrients? What nutrients? I mean, we can do, there are great blood tests that you can check. We have something called SpectraCell that we run, that checks the amino acids, vitamins, minerals, fatty acids. Great blood test. But a quick way, here you have all the different vials, and for amino acids, fats and oils, minerals, vitamins, and you can pinpoint and see what nutrients may be missing for that individual. The same thing, testing the nervous system, because the nervous system is how, part of how the body communicates. Fantastic. Or maybe you're dealing with a food sensitivity. So here, we're dealing with garlic, gluten, dairy, corn. What are we dealing with here? Even innocuous things like tomato or onion or broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Can they be impacting you? So I mean, we have great blood tests called MRT that actually checks and see the inflammatory response to red blood cells of a certain food. Or inflammatory response on red blood cells to a certain food, which is fantastic to do. So I'm not going to say that you should not do any other labs, but these things here, it's a great screening tool. And I again and again have patients coming in, children, adults coming in, and they're dealing maybe with a rash, bloat, or aches and pains, and they want to pinpoint and see if there's a food sensitivity. And you pinpoint it through the autonomic response testing using these different vials, and you can then eliminate the foods that are then creating the reaction, and the patient gets better. It's amazing how that works. It's such a simple tool, so quick. So going through all these foods, that will take me maybe like 5 minutes, at the top, all these different foods. Or to see if there's a Lyme parasite, mold, virus, or so we have bacteria here as well. All these different bacteria. We have viruses here as well. So all of this can go. It takes like a few minutes for me to go through all these different things. And it's a great screening tool. And can you just imagine the cost? I mean, just going through all the antibody tests for all these different viruses. I mean, this is like thousands and thousands of dollars right here, and even has the coronavirus here. So it's right there, and you can muscle test and see how the individual's doing. Or Epstein-Barr. A lot of people are dealing with health issues that related to Epstein-Barr or other herpes type of viruses. So it's just a huge amount of things that you can check here. Or hepatitis A, B, C, D, viruses, influenza viruses, and it's a lot of options. You even have here, you get SARS, coronavirus right there. You can test that. Or with bacteria, you have a lot of different bacteria that Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori, which a lot of kind of ulcers and things that people are dealing with can be associated with that. But other chronic conditions, or Klebsiella pneumoniae, and the list goes on and on. So find that out very quickly. Or look here, emotions play a huge role. So we even have then test kits for different emotions. So maybe there's emotion that is driving any kind of disease pattern that is part of it. So huge. So you can just see the possibilities of gaining a huge amount of information very quickly, instead of having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to kind of go through all these possible rabbit holes. You can gain information about what's going on in the body really fast.